It is no secret what God can do. What is done for others, He'll do for you. With arms wide open, He'll pardon you. It is no secret what God can do. God restored my life. He transformed my life, and He'll do the same for you. I just want to share my testimony with you, to encourage you, to inform you, to inspire you, to encourage that faith that you have but you're not utilizing. Yes, God is a restorer. It doesn't matter where you are now. Just talk to your God. Just lift your faith, and God will step in and make a way where there seemed to be no way. I got baptized at age 15, and everything in my life from that age spiraled out of control. Let me give you a little background of who I am. I grew up in the church. My dad he wasn't a pastor, but he preached most of the Sundays, because the pastor would come perhaps once per month. And he was in charge. He was a deacon, but he was in charge of the church in so many aspects, as well as my mother. And I'm telling you, I had to go to church whether or not I like it. But I knew from a young age that I loved the Lord. I loved the Lord. I can remember when I listened to some Jimmy Swaggart and Ray Bowles, I used to cry. Tears would just run down my face about the love of God. I knew from day one that I belonged to Jesus, but I had some struggles. I had some sexual struggles that persist for years. And so fast forward up to age 15 when I got baptized, I didn't even realize that I was pregnant. Yes, I was pregnant at age 15 and did not even realize until afterwards. I was still in high school in grade 11. I was able to graduate. Thank God for His grace and His mercies. But I was such a messed up child. I couldn't think on my studies, boyfriend, sex, those things were on my mind. I was messed up. And all persons around me could say was, I don't want anything but man. I left high school with no subjects, even though I took 5. But that was not the end of my life. Even though others gave up on me, at one point I gave up on myself, but it did not end there. And so my parents took my child and sent me back to school after I graduated. But going back to school for 3 years, I got pregnant again. I was struggling. No one knew the internal struggles I was going through. I was exposed to sex from I was a little girl. Little girl. I was exposed to it. I was molested and no one knew. I didn't even know. I just knew that I had a problem. Why can't I stop having sex? I wanted to stop and didn't know how to stop. And this persists. Having 2 children as a teenager, my life went downhill. At age 19, I attempted suicide because my life was miserable. Tears was my meat day and night. I lost a lot of weight. I was living in misery. I felt like a zombie. I was just existing. I felt hopeless, empty, unhappy. Nothing was going my way. I left my parents' house and was catching here, there, and everywhere. Couldn't get a job. I was not qualified to get a job. But the good thing is, after I went back to school at age 18, going into 19, I did a clerical typist course and was successful. And so at age 19, I had a certificate as a clerical typist. And God was using just that one certificate to lead me into His beautiful path that He had designed for me. And so I was able to go back to school and did a few subjects, and I got all of them. I got all of them. And so God was preparing me for the path that He had for me before the foundation of the world. But as a young Christian, I struggled in church with sexual sin. I struggled and I struggled and I struggled, and I didn't know how to stop. I would cry out to God even when I'm in the act. I would cry out to God. I remember being in this relationship for a couple of years, but on and off, but this guy was just treating me bad. He cheated on me, but I thought it was love that I have for him and couldn't leave. I didn't know that it was stronghold, the open door that the enemy sought to destroy me from a little girl, opened that sexual door, and I couldn't say no. I couldn't stop having sex. Even when the guys would treat me bad, I would be mad at first, but when they come and ask forgiveness, I would go back. And I struggled in it for years. But God had a plan. And so my aunt at the time, after I completed the clerical typist course, I couldn't get a job. Did a little stint as a sales clerk, didn't make any money, so no commission, no money. I was frustrated, and so I left that job. And so I was there despondent, not knowing where to go, no job, no home. I was there just catching at people's house, and they treated me bad also. I didn't know what to do, and so I cried out to God. I remember one night, during this time I went back home, and so I remember getting up after 12 in the midnight and went outside and sat on a piece of rock, and I cried out to God. I wept bitterly. I said, God, I don't live anywhere. I'm back home at my parents' house, and I'm now a mother. I'm now a woman. And the situation at home was not conducive for me, because I felt as if this was not it. There had to be better. And so I prayed that night and I asked God to provide a job for me. But God heard my cry, but God would give me the job how I wanted it. And so my aunt at the time that had helped me with my common entrance, I was staying with her at that time, and she suggested that I go to youth service. So I called them, get the information, and I was on my way to do the 1 month training. It was a success, to God be the glory, and I learned a lot about discipline and how to be better in so many areas of my life. My deportment, how I can stand in public and speak. Trust me, my stint there, my 1 month stint, did a lot for me. And that was the beginning of greater things that God had in store for my life. At first, I didn't want to go on the training, because I thought that youth service was for persons who, don't have any education. And I thought that I had education, even though I left high school with no subject. I still believed that I had education. I just needed to try again. And so after the 1 month, I was placed at the NHT in St. Anne's Bay at the time, and I didn't even recognize that that was the opening that God was preparing for me. And I'm telling you today, I am still at the NHT after 20 years, and to God be the glory. I know it's not because I was qualified. I wasn't qualified to get that job. It was God who sent me on that youth service training, then placed me there to do my 6 months on the job training, and after 2 months someone left and they asked me to act. And so God has been reorganizing my life. But that was the work aspect of it. But I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling. So after getting baptized at age 15, I saw the need again in 1999. That was in 1992 I got baptized. And I saw the need again 7 years after, because I thought I was so messed up having sex in sin. I don't want to continue this way, but I keep going back to these sexual practices. And so in 1999 again, I felt the need to tell the world that I'm no longer with the world. And so I got baptized in Brownstone New Testament. This was life transforming for me, because I felt alive again. Yes, I felt clean again. I felt that, yes, God, this is where I ought to be. I'm at peace again. But that didn't last long. I keep going back. I keep going back into sin. And I keep going back into sin. And I would cry. And I would ask God to help me. I would say, God, I need to stop. Please help me to stop. I don't want to continue in this sin. I love you, God. I want to serve you in spirit and in truth. It continued for years and years and years again, until I backslid. I came out of church. I went back into sexual sin because I recognized that, God, I can't continue in this practice and serving you. And so I gave in. I felt as if, God, I can't do this anymore. I can't continue to be sinning and going to church. I can't do this anymore. So I go back in the world. I went back. And in 2005, I sought to clean up myself again, knowing that I couldn't get clean with just baptism. It needed more than that. I got baptized the third time because I was determined to get it right, not recognizing God knew my heart, but I was doing it the wrong way. I was taking things in my own strength to be going back each time to get baptized, not recognizing, not realizing that it's not baptism that is going to wash away my sin. It is deliverance that I need. I didn't know about deliverance. I was a country girl. Those things are not taught in those churches when I was there. I don't know if they start now, but I had no knowledge that I was bound. I had no knowledge that there was a stronghold on my life through that open door as a little girl being sexually molested. I didn't know that I needed deliverance. And so in 2006, after God commissioned me to carry out an act of service to someone else, and I obeyed him, God delivered me and sent me to Kingston. But this deliverance is a process. My deliverance from St. Anne was a process, because if I had stayed there, perhaps I would not have gotten this freedom that I was searching for. No one was telling me that I needed deliverance, and that these sexual soul ties are things that will persist and persist and persist, and you will not be free until you're delivered. You have to go through the act of deliverance, because these are spirits that has been deposited in your life. And so my life was messed up sexually because I was not delivered. And I keep going back. I keep going back. And I keep going back. For many years of my Christian life, I keep going back into sexual sin. And so I came to Kingston. I started the journey, of learning about the scriptures and learning more about sin and how different doors are opened. I am learning now at school because the Lord sent me to JTS to learn about what is happening in the spiritual realm. And it did not just end there. After finishing JTS with my degree in social work, God rearranged me because it was not just spiritual deliverance I needed. I needed mental deliverance. I needed emotional deliverance. I needed attitudinal deliverance. I was a mess. I couldn't have proper relationships because I would get antsy and I would be bitter and angry and quarrel, and I would take battles in my own hand as a Christian. I was a mess. But God was taking me through the process of deliverance. And so when I came to Kingston now, having gotten a transfer to my work head office, I didn't even recognize that, boy, the tests that I would be going through are all a part of the deliverance process, because God placed some people in my life that stood up as the devil from hell, and I had to bow. I had to relinquish my big bad wolf self and let God fight my battles, because I thought that I could fight them in my own strength, and every time I fought the battles I would get knocked down on the ground, knocked down, because I was fighting in the flesh, and flesh cannot fight spirit. And so the process continued of purging, of cleansing, of relinquishing these spirits that has hooked themselves in my soul, and these soul ties from these sexual partners that I couldn't get over. They would come back and I would give them another chance. For each time they come back, I would say yes, and the cycle continued. Not until God revealed to me what was happening. I needed deliverance. And so the Lord sent me to Bible school now. Yes, another training, another lesson to learn. I was sent back to school again because I needed training. I needed knowledge, because God said in his word that his people perish because of lack of knowledge. And if you don't know how to combat the enemy, you will in a state of perpetual sin. And so God sent me back to school and taught me about demonology. Yes, man, he taught me that what was happening to me, I could not understand all my life. When I used to put down myself, when I had low self-esteem, when I chastised myself and hated myself, I did not realize that these were spirits that wanted to get rid of me. That was their plan, to get rid of me. But God would not have it. God would not have it. If God have to turn your life in another direction to point you to where he's taking you, he will. That's the God he is. Nothing can deter him. The enemy can only delay what God has in store for you. And God allowed it to happen because God wanted to open my blind eyes. I was blind. I was a Christian but blind. I did not know where I was going. I was lost. On my way to heaven, lost. But to God be the glory today. Knowledge has given me hindsight. And in knowing, you'll know what to do. In knowing, you'll know how to move forward. And to God be the glory. I am no longer the same. To God be the glory. I am no longer a messed up Christian. The enemy boxed me to and fro because I was blind. on my way to heaven, but I was blind. I didn't understand the spiritual warfare that is against us as people of God. People of God, you need to read what God says in His Word. Read books, inspirational books. Listen to inspirational videos and motivational videos as well. Those are the things that has helped me to grow me, to let me understand that the battle is already won and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I hated myself. I accused me of every wrong that there is. I thought that I would not get it right. I thought that I couldn't be a good Christian. I thought that if a man come and say me look good, well, me happy for them tell me so. If they ask me to lie with them, me lie with them. I did not put any price on myself nor any value because I didn't know what that was. God re-socialized me. He has taught me how to live good with people. The battle is still on. The old man wants to come forth each time there is some disagreement. But I'm telling you today, without any reservation, that I'm a brand new person. God has rearranged my life. He has transformed me. He has rearranged how I think. My mind has been transformed. And so as He has got me on this journey, it's not just for myself. Those tests were all a part of my testimony to help you. To help you to come up higher, to get your deliverance. Because where you are is not where God wants you. In that perpetual sin is not where you ought to be. You're chosen, but you're messed up. You don't have to stay in that messed up condition. Seek the Lord with your whole heart. Call upon Him while He's near. Cry out to Him like the woman with the issue of blood. I cried out to God. Every day I cried out to God for help. And God heard my cry and came to deliver me. And it's a continued process. I'm not in heaven as yet, but it's a continued process. And the fact that I know who I am, I know who I am. So when the test comes, I just remind myself of who I am and whose I am. And that's the same thing I'm leaving with you even now, for you to know who you are and whose you are in Christ. I hope you were blessed. I hope you were challenged. And as you move forward, may you look up. May you draw closer to God, because only through Him you will get your total deliverance and transformation will take place. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. May your hearts be enriched and may your lives be enlarged in the name of Jesus.